The Denver Broncos are putting their finishing touches on game prep for the Las Vegas Raiders on Sunday here. Will Jerry Jeudy play? He looks like he could be trending in the right direction. You're going to get that and much more with a cup of coffee on today's new episode of GMB. What's up, Broncos Country? Welcome into another episode of GMB, brought to you by our good friends over there at Superbook Sports here. We're going to break down all the action here. 48 hours away from kickoff as the Broncos are set to host the Las Vegas Raiders in an AFC West divisional showdown. On top of that, it's an AFC conference game. Everything that they do from here on out, it matters in the win and loss column here, but players are ready for the occasion. I'm Cody Roark, Broncos reporter for Mile High Sports. You can check out my work every single day at milehighsports.com. You can check out all our other Colorado sports coverage as well here on the YouTube channels. Make sure you hit that subscribe or that follow button so you never miss out on your favorite teams. And here in Colorado, every team, every day, Mile High Sports here. But let's go through here, Broncos Country, and let's talk about what we saw at Thursday's practice. Now, obviously, Denver's going to have one more practice here today at the Centura Health Training Center. The injury report coming out of today's practice, I think, will give us some more insight in the status of Jerry Jeudy and also maybe even Riley Moss here. But for the most part, Denver is in a very good spot here, and here's why. Well, first off, let's talk about the injury report from Thursday's practice. We had our media viewing portion where we were able to see what was going on here from team stretch, a little bit of individual period. Jerry Jeudy for 2 days in a row has looked good, has moved really well, but it's unknown at this point because we don't get access to seeing any of the team stuff. Not sure if he did anything, but he was officially listed as limited on the injury report. 2 days in a row, it's a good sign for him considering where he was at initially last week. But the question is, will he play in Sunday's matchup? That right there is very interesting. But we had a chance to catch up with Jerry Jeudy following practice inside of the Broncos locker room. And when it comes to figuring out whether or not he's going to play on Sunday, look, Jerry wants to have a lot of control in it himself based on how he feels, but he trusts his body. He's going to listen to his body, and ultimately he's going to see where he's feeling ahead of Sunday's matchup.
Oh, I'm being 100% smart about it, I got to listen to my body, So if I feel good, I'm good. If I don't, then I don't. So it all depends how I'm feeling.
And I think for him, the progress he's made, because he even talked about it as well, when he pulled the hamstring a couple weeks ago at that joint training camp practice, he had said to himself, like, hey, honestly, it was very painful. And if you've ever pulled your hamstring, folks, you know exactly what it's like. Pulling it is obviously something. Tearing it is another thing. Some guys are unfortunate enough to tear theirs. But for Jerry to make the progress that he has had, I think, 18, maybe 19 days since it has happened, leading up here to the season opener, there is a good chance that he could play, right? Now, for me, I'm a firm believer if Jerry is not 100% or not close to being ready to go, I don't think you put him out there. I think that, hey, he's made good progress this week here in practice, ramping things up. But what is he going to look like maybe, with another week of practice under his belt, another time to just recover and get as much time possible? It goes back to the point. I'd rather have Jerry Jeudy on the field for maybe 16, 17 weeks out of the season versus 18 overall. So for me, be smart with it. Jerry obviously understands that. And look, he's going to say, hey, based on how he feels overall on Sunday, that'll determine whether or not he plays. So something to monitor here if you are a Broncos fan. Now, let's go to tight end Chris Manhertz, who popped up on the injury report this week with the chest designation. He was limited on Wednesday, but he was upgraded to a full participant in Thursday's practice. And I think for Denver, with his size and his athleticism, when you're playing against elite pass rushers like Max Crosby or who knows how the whole Chandler Jones thing is going to play out here. But I imagine wherever Max Crosby is, if I'm Sean Payton, you know what I'm doing? I'm putting number 84 over there, wherever Crosby is, and I'm helping that tackle there. And that's not saying that you don't trust your tackle, but in my opinion, I think it says, you know what? Max Crosby is a guy who's had 11 and a half sacks in 7 games against Denver. He's been a game wrecker against them. So do whatever you can to mitigate him from being able to ruin your game plan here. Sean Payton is very, very smart with the way he constructs game plans, how he looks to attack certain defenses and maybe even certain players. How do you counteract one impact player on defense coming in and impacting what you want to do on your offensive side of the ball? Sean Payton is very, very good at that. So I think that we will see Chris Manhertz play a little bit of an elevated role here. I think we're going to see a lot of 12 and 13 personnel in Sunday's game, as we've been kind of hyping up all week long here. But him being upgraded from limited to full is a great sign. He's going to be ready to go for Sunday's matchup here. Riley Moss, another player who was limited for the second consecutive day in a row as he continues to recover from core muscle surgery. And I'm very curious to see maybe where he's at following today's practice at the Centura Health Training Center. Where is he at from that standpoint of, is he doing a little bit more? Does he get upgraded from limited to full? Same thing with Jerry Jeudy. Do we see an upgrade from limited to a full participant? Usually, if that's the case, it's a good sign that a player may play. But if both these guys are limited once again, their official game status will be questionable unless Sean Payton says, hey, we want to give Jerry another week and rules people out outright. I don't think Sean Payton is going to be a guy that necessarily does that, though. Sean Payton, that gives away a little bit of a competitive advantage. You want the Raiders to believe that, hey, Jerry Jeudy's going to play, right? And so if he plays, great. If not, you strike that little bit of fear in him, like, hey, this is our game plan if he does play, and you make them maybe consider an option if he doesn't play there. So those are some things that we're going to analyze here on the coaching side of things. Greg Dulcich was back at practice. He missed Wednesday's practice due to a personal family matter, according to Sean Payton. He was back in the fray during Thursday's practice, and he'll be ready to play on Sunday against the Las Vegas Raiders. But overall, I would say the vibe in the Broncos locker room in general has been that these guys are ready to go. The training camp was a grueling feature for all of them. And look, talking to a lot of the players, I said, hey, we needed this. After how last year went for Denver going 5-12, a lot of the players support Sean Payton's stance. And look, I think they like being coached up hard by him. Like, that's the type of coach that Sean Payton is. I think he toes the line of being very balanced and like, hey, you want to empower your players. You want to do what your players are really successful at, what they're very good at. You want to do what players are good at specifically, and maybe how it fits into what the team can do as a whole, on whether it's on offense or whether it's on defense. You see Sean Payton do that, but guys are saying like, hey, we like his approach. Like, he's old school. He's not going to be super easy on us. He's going to be hard on us, because I think players at the end of the day, these guys in this locker room, folks, I can tell you this, they want to win so bad, but they got to learn how to win, right? A lot of these guys have not been part of a winning team. There's only been a select few. And now you've got over 20 new players inside that locker room. You've got a brand new head coach, some new coaches outside of two guys, and Christian Parker and Marcus Dixon. These guys are ready to let go and let loose on Sunday against the Raiders. And hey, the stakes are going to be very high. AFC West divisional opponent. You know exactly what type of stakes that is here. And obviously we heard from Broncos offensive tackle Mike McGlinchey, who talked about this, because this is something that Broncos head coach Sean Payton has been harping on. Here's what McGlinchey had to say following Thursday's practice.
Well, division games certainly always, matter more. It almost counts as two, right? Because it counts as a win and a loss for the other team. So it's a big deal. It's certainly a big deal, and certainly something that Coach Payton has harped on to stay and start fast this year, and certainly to do it at home would be a great opportunity.
So obviously a lot of great insight there from the Broncos' newly acquired offensive tackle. They got an NFL free agency. And look, a big game for him this upcoming week. He's going to face the likes of Chandler Jones, maybe. Tyree Wilson, probably see some time with him. And obviously Max Crosby. I think they like to move him around a little bit. So there's going to be times where he's lined up on the right side. There's going to be times he's lined up on the left side against Garrett Bowles. And we'll see what the Broncos do to try to counteract the aggressive defense that we will see led by Patrick Graham, the defensive coordinator for the Las Vegas Raiders. But Broncos Country, we're going to get into our keys to victory here on today's episode of GMB. Real quick, let me tell you about our friends over there at Superbook Sports, the sponsor of today's episode of the show. Why bet with the big boys this football season? Well, instead, you could try your hand at the local book, Superbook Sports, this fall. Superbook Sports is the book next door, just a dedicated team of the best odds makers in Las Vegas, making sure that you get the best prices and parlays anywhere. And now Superbook will give you a bonus of up to $250 when you sign up and wager on the same day and use the promo code Mile High. So bet with the best and use promo code Mile High this football season with Superbook Sports. Visit superbook.com for terms and conditions. Gambling problem? Call 1-800-GAMBLER. All right, let's get into our keys to victory here for the Denver Broncos in Sunday's matchup against the Las Vegas Raiders. It's hard to really kind of say, okay, this is what Denver needs to do in order to win, because there's so many different elements to winning a football game than just, okay, if you do this, you're going to win. I mean, I think the cliche, more ironic thing would say, oh, hey, if Denver scores more points than the Raiders, they're going to win the game. Thank you, Captain Obvious. These are thoughts I have in my head all the time here. But let's get to the tangible stuff that we can actually look for in Sunday's game. When you're sitting down on the couch or you're at the stadium and you're watching the game play out, here's what you should be looking for if Denver is going to win this game. Now, first off, let's start with the Broncos offense here. I think protecting the football is obviously going to be very important. Denver has had moments against the Raiders where, they're moving the ball. They're scoring well. We saw it in the first game in week 4 last season. What was the turning point of that game, though, for Denver? It was a Melvin Gordon fumble that was recovered and ran back for a touchdown there by the Las Vegas Raiders. That was backbreaking for what they were trying to accomplish after moving the ball, having touchdowns to Cortland Sutton, Russ calling his own number on one play as well in that game in Vegas last year. You have to avoid the turnovers. And I think for Russ, how is he in terms of last year? I think we saw him take some chances across the middle of the field. How does he play within the structure of this offense based on what he's done well previously in Seattle? We're going to see that look here coming up. We're going to see Sean Payton expand the playbook, open a little bit more than what we were able to see in the preseason, but it's just doing those things here. And I think obviously what factors into good performance protecting the football, obviously for Russell Wilson, it's having time to throw, not being consistently pressured or rushed or forcing throws into tight windows because you got pressure barreling down on you. Offensive line communication is going to have to be key. And obviously, if we talked about Chris Manhurst maybe playing a role as an extra guy who can help chip and protection, I think you're going to see Russ with some time there. But it's all about communication on an offensive line because they're going to send the nickel blitz sometimes. They're going to send inside backers. They're going to send safeties on blitz. It's making sure your keys across the O-line are all there. But more importantly, we have yet to see the Broncos, any running back so far in training camp of the preseason, put a ball on the ground. That's great, right? Ball security is the number one thing. If your running back can protect the football and you can move the chains for a first down, you're going to increase your opportunities to score and obviously to win this game here. And that kind of ties into our other key to game on the offensive side of the ball. Away from, hey, reduce turnovers, it's more so run the ball really well against the Raiders and also control the time of possession here. And look, I think for Denver, we saw a good formula in that last preseason game against the Los Angeles Rams here, where they had 36 minutes time of possession on the clock. They ran for over 100 yards in that game there. In my opinion, you got to rush for over 120 yards in this game. We'll see Javonte, we'll see Samaje, and we'll also see Jaleel McLaughlin. We'll see these three backs be heavily involved. We might even see Michael Burton get some carries here at the fullback position. But I think if Denver can come out and run the ball successful and have, I think, efficient looks out of that, I think it will open up the passing game here. And obviously it leads into everything I talked about, protecting the football here for Denver. Now, let's transition to the defensive side of the ball here for the Broncos. I think it's very important here that the most cliche things we can say is, hey, stop Josh Jacobs. But how do you do that, folks? And it's all about being consistent and not having these backbreaking, big, explosive plays happen against you when you were close to stopping a drive like we saw last year. Like Josh Jacobs would have a run on maybe 2nd and 7 or let's say 3rd and 4, and he would get like 20 yards. And it was just backbreaking in terms of the momentum that the defense had because there were times I thought they did a really good job of stopping the run. But then he just keeps his feet churning on one play. We've heard it all week long from the linebackers, from the defense. It's about getting 11 guys to Josh Jacobs wherever he's at. He's a great player. The Broncos have a lot of respect for him. They have yet to beat the Raiders when Josh Jacobs plays. And so obviously he's going to play on Sunday. Can they snap the streak here? It's about slowing him down, making sure he doesn't get those yards after contact, which he excelled at so much last season, leading the NFL in that category. That's going to be a big part of it. And I think really reducing explosive plays, right? You don't want to be giving up big plays of 20-plus yards downfield, whether that's in the rushing game, whether that's in the passing game with receivers that they have like Jacoby Myers, Devontae Adams, Hunter Renfrow, Michael Mayer, the new tight end, who's shown to be physical, can be a downfield presence here. Avoid giving up the big play of 20-plus yards. If Denver can reduce explosive plays downfield, they're going to have a great opportunity. And more importantly, hey, you know what you got to do? Get off the field in third down situations here. As cliche as it is, these are things that Denver has to do really well in order to have a chance to win this game on Sunday. And it all comes down to who makes the least amount of mistakes. I know cliche once again, Cody. Why are you telling us things we already know? But I feel like the things that I've described, I hope when you're watching the game or you're at the game, I hope you watch for these things and maybe see how they do in some of these categories because these are what define the outcomes of football games. And hey, I'm excited. The Broncos season opener is going to happen here on Sunday, 2:25 p.m. Mountain Time. I'll be at the game covering it here from Mile High Sports. So if you're out there and you see me, say hi. I usually get to the stadium a little bit early. So if you have any tailgates and maybe I should stop by, hey, let me know. Send me a DM and I'll stop in before I go into the stadium on Sunday. But Broncos Country, that'll wrap up GMB for this week here. We'll be back on Monday for a game recap of the Broncos Raiders outcome at Empower Field at Mile High.